Right, I'm live now. So how do I invite people? Alright, so this is a test really. I just figured it will be easier for me if I want to make a video journal kind of update thing via YouTube, Google, the evil AI cloud, then I can save a shitload of trouble by just doing it live, and then it'll just automatically be recorded and stored on YouTube, as far as I know. First thing I need to figure out is how to actually invite people or let people know, and that is not apparent. So that's already kind of messed up. So what inspired this decision, one more sleepless night, or rather one more decision that was inspired by a sleepless night, or during a sleepless night. Well, I was just thinking about the audience that I have, or that I've created, or that has gathered around what I'm doing, and I gauge it obviously by the numbers of subscribers and followers. And that's something like 500 and something followers on YouTube, 650 following my blog, and however many on Twitter, like 1300 or something like that. Assuming that many of these are the same people, let's say there's 1,000 people who, and of course many of those numbers aren't really following or watching or reading or anything. They just clicked on a button and then forgot all about me. But let's say there's 1,000 people who are kind of more or less regularly checking in on what I'm doing. I think even that might be overestimating it. It occurred to me that that's a relatively small number compared to other public figures. I guess there are those with less, but I mean there's those with loads more. And even if we take an equivalent or seemingly somewhat equivalent figure to myself, such as Jan Irvin, or what's his name, Farrell, Joseph P. Farrell, uh, then you'll see a lot more hits, subscribers, a lot bigger numbers. And what occurred to me was that actually 1,000 people is a hell of a lot. Like, if all of those people were to get together in a room, or a town even, where I was, that would be totally overwhelming. Or let's say, obvious analogy would just be a public event, and I was speaking, and there were 1,000 attendees. That would be enormous. A funeral, if I died, if all those people showed up, which of course they wouldn't, but if they did, that would be a very big funeral. And if I was interacting with all of those people, even on a occasional basis through emails and the comment section and so on, that would also be an overwhelming number. So my point here is my insight, if you can really call it that, observation was that 1,000 is plenty. There's plenty of people to be tuning into what I'm doing, more than enough. Really, I mean, not in terms of book, even in terms of book sales, if all of you, because you're one of the 1,000 if you're watching this, bought one of my books, one of each of my books, they wouldn't be bestsellers, obviously, but they would briefly be ranked. But I mean, the first run of all of them would sell out anyway, because they're small print runs now. First runs, 1,000 was seen and not seen. So even in that regard, it's kind of enough to have a respectable sales as a writer. Not very respectable, obviously, but better than I get. Well, that wasn't really the point. Point was, book sales is a bit of an exception there, because if I really wanted uh, if I was really getting the kind of book sales I want, then yeah, we would be talking about tens of thousands of followers, readers. But in terms of the internet and this more interactive method that I prefer, the books are kind of doorways into, then yes, the numbers don't need or even want to be that high. So then the question arises, well, how to optimize that audience, how to optimize my relationship with that audience, and hence this. It seems as though it's quite a large percentage of that audience. Well, maybe it isn't a large percentage actually, but a significant percentage anyway of that hypothetical 1,000 are interested in me as a human being and not just information or product. They follow what I do, and maybe they don't necessarily want a relationship with me, because that it requires crossing a particular line, of passing through the fourth wall. But they at least seem to be interested in what I'm up to. And I know there's a danger there, the sort of celebrity thing, and there's also the danger in me doing this. This is a narcissistic pursuit, or will reinforce that narcissistic aspect of my personality, and thereby sort of reinforce it within the relationships that I'm hoping to develop by doing it. But on the other hand, well, there isn't much way around that really. Although it would be better if these are live events. Obviously, it'd be better if people were attending them, and that it was more interactive in terms of questions and stuff. That would reduce the tendency towards narcissism, I think. Okay, so now the question is if I want this just to be a video, then I would end it about now. But if I want to actually see if I can explore the possibility of interacting live, then I would need to keep it going. Too bad you can't pause it, but you can't. So what I intend to do is go over to Twitter and type in live streaming now on YouTube via my channel. I suppose I need to link to my channel at least, and then we'll find out if is that my channel? I guess it is. If people can find it just by just going to my channel, I do not know. So in the meantime, I suppose I should continue with the updates, so to speak. So I just posted the last installment of Soul, When Souls Collide, The Man Who Died. It's the anniversary of Ken's death 2 years ago. And coincidentally, the man known as drummer Bob came into the store today, as he always does, and in the same manner that he always does. And on this occasion, I engaged him in more conversation than usual, and we talked about how he has suffered from being hit by a car. First of all, he said 6 times in his life, a car or a truck. But when I probed more, it seemed as though he was claiming 4 hit-and-run incidents. They were all hit-and-run the way he described them, and 2 car accidents in which he was driving, or at least in the car. But even so, he was claiming to have been hit 4 times by a vehicle as a pedestrian, which obviously struck me as remarkable in the context of my own experience as I've recounted. So I was probing him for information, and in fact secretly recording him. So it was particularly secret. I got a recorder out and started to record it, but he didn't notice what I was doing. I didn't feel like I needed to ask his permission, because I'm not going to share the recording, but I may transcribe it. Maybe that's an infraction. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure he would say yes if I asked. In fact, I almost know he would, because he just wants nothing more than to be heard. But through the course of his recounting the incidents, the first of which was at 17, and it took him 4 years to walk again. I was told he never would. And the next of which was just a couple of years, 18 months later, and he got hit again, and he had to learn to walk again. And I was beginning to wonder how probable this was. And then when he described, I think, whichever, another accident, maybe it was the third, because it was the next one I remember him describing, in which, in this case, he was driving. He described coming off the road and breaking through the metal ceiling of the vehicle and coming all the way out of the car on impact, which itself seemed improbable. But then when he said that his face was ripped off completely and they had to build his face from scratch, then I began to think that drummer Bob was something of a confabulator, because he doesn't even have any visible scars on his face, never mind the kind of patchwork monstrosity that one would expect from somebody who had total facial reconstruction surgery back in, we're talking 1960 or something like that. He's 77. So be that as it may, whatever element of truth there is in his stories and what fiction, it still seems significant to me. And one of the things he talked about or mentioned was that the people responsible for hitting him went to jail, or the first two anyway, and the first one he claimed went to jail for 20 years. And then he said, well, he would have got life, but I didn't die. If I died, he would have got life. Well, 20 years is life, and I don't think anyone gets life for manslaughter, as far as I know. But it was very significant in the context of my own accident and how there were no consequences to date at all, as compared to these people. However, these people he described were hit and run drivers, and one of them was drinking and so on. So the circumstances were different. But he also said that, not that I can really feel I can believe anything Drummer Bob says, but he did say that the laws have changed a lot since then, which I think is believable. And certainly in my case, the laws seem to have been suspended entirely. Not that I think they should have been penalised, but I would have expected some sort of due process to determine that I wasn't more accountable legally. So anyway, that happened today, and on the productive creative front, I'm going to, well, this won't be very interesting actually. This would only be interesting if it were live, which it is, but if somebody was listening, which they're not, participants. Okay, so I'm just going to make this a test because I need a crap now, which I decided to actually say because my friend Dave O'Shana likes to talk about taking a crap a lot, and I understand why, or at least I am similar. I like to bring in bodily functions as much as possible, including actual farts and belches, as some of you know if you listen to my output. Although I do think that might perhaps crosses a line from expression to indulgence, a moving line. So yes, I'm going to end this now, perhaps start another one very soon, if I figure out how to invite people and anyone shows up. But this is also an experiment in terms of interest. If you see this video and you're interested in a regular update from me and or live events, probably would be both, then let me know by liking and commenting. All right, this is Jason Horsley. Not at the Liminalist and not the Liminalist, because that's not me, but also known as the host of the Liminalist at horticulture.com. Yes, I'm sure.